Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. We've got a great episode set up for you as the draft lottery has just happened as well. We're going to get you up to date with all the coaching carousel of the NHL and, of course, our playoff predictions for round one. So in case you don't know who we are, I'm Aaron Bloxall with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Matt, welcome once again to the show. How excited are you right now?
Well, if you take out how the draft lottery just went down, I'm pretty excited outside of that. But
well, it's like Christmas tomorrow with the playoffs starting, right? So
I know, yeah. But talk about a frustrating couple minutes when all I got announced. I still can't believe how all those top markets out east just keep getting top three picks and all that. It's just super frustrating.
Well, Gary Bettman is laughing and excited right now. Let's talk about the draft lottery. So judging by your reaction, we can let the fans know that the Canucks went from 9th down to 10th as a team below them and two teams above them slip into the top three. Why don't you give us the recap?
Yeah, so the Chicago Blackhawks, they moved 9 spots up. 9 spots, to the 3rd overall pick because, Chicago doesn't need the help or whatever, or really needs the help right now.
I hear Chelsea Dagger playing somewhere in the background.
I know. I just can't believe it. Yeah, that's like 3 years in a row now where like a team that's had like few so little odds or whatever to move into the top 3 that's happened. Because last year it was Carolina. And the year before that, it was Philadelphia and Dallas, who both jumped up into the top 3. But yeah, Chicago with the 3rd overall pick. The New York Rangers moved, I believe, 4 spots up into the 2nd overall pick. I think that's like the one I'd actually agree with them moving into the top 3 because they are actually in a rebuild. And they actually have a lot of nice young prospects, so it'll be interesting to see if they end up getting Hughes or Kakko in that 2nd overall spot. And with the 1st overall pick for the 2nd time in 3 years, the New Jersey Devils moved up 2 spots to get that 1st overall pick. I guess it's that Taylor Hall luck for getting that 1st overall pick. But yeah, it's frustrating because it's like it's two teams sort of based around, well, one in New York and one New York-ish, and then Chicago, another big hockey market, all getting those top 3 picks.
Well, if New Jersey could do it all over again a couple of years ago, do they still take Hershire?
I know, yeah, because it's just like now you probably go Pettersson, and then I'd actually probably take Heiskanen probably 2nd overall, and then Hischier 3rd would probably be the big 3 there, and Nolan Patrick would have dropped out of the top 3 there. But yeah, Hischier is still a heck of a player. But yeah,
Patrick still has a lot of upside as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, to have like Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier as your top 2 centers moving forward, and that will also help them with Taylor Hall's contract negotiations this summer as well to help them keep him around long term.
Do one of those 3 teams trade?
Oh, it'll be interesting because I think the top 2 picks, it's going to have to be like something like incredible and just out of this world sort of thing to get one of those 2 picks. The Chicago pick will be interesting because I think Chicago will keep it, but I think out of all those 3 picks, Chicago really intrigues me to see what the price it would be to move into the top 3 there. Just because I think they got some young pieces coming up. And I think like outside of like Kakko and Hughes, I'm not sure how many guys are NHL ready going into next season. But yeah, I think the 3rd overall pick could be in play. But I usually when it comes to those high end draft picks, it's pretty rare that teams move up. But you never know. Maybe somebody can pull like a Brian Burke when he got the Sedins and wheel and deal sort of thing to move up. But yeah, it'll be really interesting.
Jim Benning, of course, has to make that trade if the Canucks want Jack Hughes. But the Ottawa Senators pick 2 Colorado slides from 1 to 4. I can see that pick potentially being in play. Maybe that's a play that the Canucks make to get a guy like local boy, Bowen Byram,
Mm.
defenseman for the Vancouver Giants, who is potentially NHL ready next year. It'd be interesting to see if any teams try to move up and what happens. Like you said, I think it's going to take a big package or a miracle for a team to move up. So Hawk fans everywhere are having a party, and of course the Ranger fans and Devil fans in New York. Obviously they're quite thrilled. So moving on, let's talk about, there's been a ton of coaching changes and signings in the last few days, including, I know there was another one yet today. So why don't you catch us up to date with all of those?
Yeah, so there were three official coaching firings, and there are more coaching changes coming, just because there are some teams like Anaheim or whatever, and potentially Edmonton that will need new coaches coming up. But the official ones going in, the Florida Panthers fired Bob Booner as head coach. The Panthers went 36, 32, and 14 this year for 86 points. I think a bit of a disappointing season. I think I had them making the playoffs this year, just because I looked at that roster, and I think the one question mark was goaltending, which did not work out for them this year. But I looked at that roster and I thought they could make the playoffs this season, but that did not go well. I think one of the big reasons was goaltending, and sort of the way Booner used Luongo and Reimer. I think he was sort of using Luongo, I think, at the beginning of the season, where his numbers were great, but he started using him like he was like 30 years old or something like that. Just like not giving him as much rest as he should have. And then they went out the next day and hired Joel Quenneville, which with Dale Talon being the general manager there, you got the Chicago connection right there right away. But yeah, I think with Booner, I think it's not all his fault, because I think Dale Talon's also made some dumb trades and moves, because if you look, he gave the Vegas Golden Knights 2/3 of their top line and Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith to protect Alex Petrovic in the expansion draft. Yeah, Alex Petrovic over either Marchessault or Smith. Go figure there. And then you had the McCann and Bukestad trade for Brassard and Shan, which that didn't make any sense, but possibly like in the off season, if they're going to go after Panarin or Bobrovsky or somebody like that, then that would figure in better.
Their defense has been terrible too. I mean, they've probably, in my opinion, got one of the weaker defense in the NHL. They still have a couple of good players there, but overall, their top six are not very strong.
Yeah, because like outside of like Keith Yandel and Aaron Ekblad, it's pretty bleak there. I forget who they all have coming up in the system and younger guys, but Yandel had like a career year. I think he had like 62 or 63 points, but he was like a power play machine, and one of those underrated defensemen where he always stays healthy. I forget where his Ironman streak is, but it has to be like in the 500 to 600 games, I think, right now. But yeah, one of those guys that just consistently puts up like around that 50 points every year. And Aaron Ekblad, he's still one of those young stud defensemen who everybody would like to have on their team. And of course, Alexander Barkov, he said he had a career season with 96 points, which is a Panthers franchise record, passing Pavel Bure's mark of 94 points. And that was in the 1999-2000 season. But moving on to the Buffalo Sabres, they fired Phil Housley as their head coach after 2 seasons. Buffalo, they had a crazy good start. They had that 10-game winning streak. They were in the top 3 in the Atlantic Division. And then the second half of the season happened, and they went on a complete free fall, ending the season with a 33, 39-10 record for 76 points. Very, very frustrating there. And, of course, the LA Kings, they let go of Willie Desjardins as their interim coach. And now these two teams are connected is that Todd McCullough, former Edmonton Oilers and San Jose Sharks head coach. He's connected to both of these teams, with possibly Buffalo being the front runner to get McClellan.
Well, now that Quenneville signed, I think a few other coaches will fall into place. I saw today that trying to think of his name, Minnesota coach just re-signed.
Yeah. Bruce Boudreau. I think I believe he still had term on his contract, but the GM gave him a vote of confidence going into next season.
even though they missed on the playoffs. Not his fault necessarily. I mean, Minnesota made quite a few changes at the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back next season. So on to our playoff predictions. Let's start off in the West. Let's start off Calgary, Colorado. I'm going to say Colorado in 6. They're going to perform the upset. That's my upset team of the first round. Calgary's going to play tough. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Because to me, playoffs is like Christmas because this is where people start playing real hockey. You're going to see guys finishing their hits. You're going to see all sorts of physicality. And some players will emerge and some will disappear. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. But Colorado's my upset pick. I'm going to say Colorado in 6, only because of the way Grubauer's been playing down the stretch. And that number 1 line of McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. Tough to handle no matter how good you are. But it's going to be exciting because Calgary's got a great first line and a great top 5.
Yeah, so I think I will lean the other way. I think Calgary will win in 6 games. Goaltending will be one of the biggest question marks on both sides. Like Grubauer, he had that hot streak in Washington as well last year, but once when the playoffs came around, he lost those first 2 games before Holtby came in, and then he took them all away.
They were in overtime, though.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like the way Grubauer has been playing, like he's been basically unbeatable the last like month and a half. And with Calgary, I'm not sure who they're going to go. I think they're going to go with Mike Smith in Game 1. But between him and David Rittich, like Smith, he finished the season with a save percentage below 900. I know he's been playing better of late, but it's never good when your starting goaltender has a save percentage below 900. But I think one thing that could be a difference maker is special teams. With this team, I was looking up Colorado finished with the 7th best power play at 22%, while Calgary was 18th at 19.3%. But yeah, with Rantanen, I know he missed the remainder of the season with an injury, but he should be back for Game 1, which is huge. But I think on paper, I think Calgary has a better team than Colorado. I think they got more depth, especially on the back end. I really like Giordano, Brody, Hamonic, and Hannafin as a top 4. And they even got like some nice younger guys like Rasmus Anderson. And they picked up Oscar Funberg from the Kings at the trade deadline. And then their forward group like Goudreau, Monahan, Lindholm. I think they can match that top line in Colorado. And then when you start going down the depth-wise, Matthew Tkachuk had a crazy good season. And then you have Backlund. Hopefully James Neal can figure things out in the playoffs after a disappointing regular season. But I really like
how good Sam Bennett's mustache will do, right?
Yeah, 18-year-old Sam Bennett. We will never forget that that year of the playoffs. Oh my goodness! But yeah, that's an inside joke. If you ever watched like the Canucks Flames series, I think that was the first year that Willie Desjardins was head coach. But every time Sam Bennett touched the puck, the commentators would always say 18-year-old Sam Bennett, like we needed to know his age or whatever when he had to get the puck. But yeah, I think Calgary in 6. But I think it'll come down to goaltending and who the heck's gonna get on that hot streak as it is in the playoffs. If you don't get good goaltending, it doesn't matter how many goals you put up or how good you play. You can't keep the puck out of your net. You're not going far in the playoffs.
Vegas, San Jose. I'm going to go with Vegas. Their depth is just, man, San Jose's depth's crazy too, but Vegas, in my opinion, has the best 4th line right now, and it's super heavy with Reeves and Carrier. They're going to be banging bodies. Their top 2 lines are super crazy good. Their goaltender, if Fleury plays the way Fleury can, like I said, Vegas in 7. Oh, man, this is a coin toss, though, because San Jose – just if they're healthy, they're going to be super good, but I'm scared about their goaltending situation.
Yeah, because I wrote down the numbers this year. Jones in 62 games this year had an .896 save percentage. But if you do look at his playoff numbers, in 42 career playoff games, he has a .926 save percentage. So I think, as I brought up in earlier episodes, you could have a Braden Holtby situation here where he had a bad regular season, but in the playoffs he might be able to turn it on. But I'm not overly optimistic with just the way that he played. And then if you go to Marc-Andre Fleury, who last year he had a 9.27 save percentage in 20 playoff games last year. Basically, like one of the best
shutouts too.
yeah, and it just one of the best goalie performances since like that Jonathan Quick, where they won their first Stanley Cup as the 8th overall seed, and Quick just basically every single night was an absolute monster in net. But yeah, if you go, like, I think I'm gonna have to go Vegas in 7 games, just because I think San Jose's depth will win some games. Like, I think I saw they're the first team to have 430 goal scorers on them since 2008-09, where the Detroit Red Wings and the Philadelphia Flyers both had 30 goal scorers. So their depth is really good. Like, those 30 goal scorers, I think that's Evander Kane, Thomas Hertl, Joe Pavelski. And I'll be forgetting the other one, but
Timo Meyer or Logan Couture?
Yeah. Timo Meyer, and then they had I think like seven guys with at least 20 goals. So you go Couture, Nyquist in there as well.
Yeah.
So they got some crazy depth, and then you got Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson returned from injury finally in the last game of the regular season. So that'll be huge for San Jose as well. But yeah, Vegas, like I really like their top 6. In Max Pacioretty, Stastny, Stone, and then you got Karlsson, Marchessault, Smith. And then, as you brought up, that 4th line of Belmar, Reeves, and I forget who else would be on there. They sort of been alternating.
Yeah, usually it's Carrier just because of his size, but they do switch out every once in a while. And you still got Alex Tuch on the 3rd line. So.
Oh, yeah. Alex Tuch, Cody Eakin. The one intriguing guy I will see on how he's going to do in the playoffs is Max Pacioretty, because his playoff history hasn't been the greatest when they've needed him, when the teams needed him to step up. But at least in this situation, he won't be the top guy like he was in Montreal. He is in a secondary role. But I think Mark Stone could have
Mark Stone's clutch, right? So he's going to help Pacioretty for sure.
Yeah,
so we got to keep moving on. We got to keep moving on. So, to the next playoff round, Nashville, Dallas. Nashville, they've been kind of sleepwalking all season. They've had their fair share of injuries. They're finally starting to get healthy, and I'm going to go Nashville in 5.
All right, so you always got to have that one upset one, and I'm going to use it here. I got Dallas in 6 games. I'll go. A big thing will be goaltending, and once again, Pekka Rinne, he's sort of been up and down the past few years in the playoffs. And Ben Bishop, now that he's healthy, if he can stay healthy, that's the one big thing here, because Bishop, he's been injury prone, but he had the best save percentage in the NHL this year with a .934 save percentage, and he led with a .198 goals against average as well in 47 games, and he's been great in his playoff career. He got Tampa Bay to a conference final and the Stanley Cup final. He has a .927 career save percentage in the playoffs. I know Nashville's depth. I think they have better depth than Dallas, but I think outside of like the New York Islanders, they were like the second. They gave up the second least amount of goals in the NHL this year. And Tyler Seguin had a really good year after being called out. I think he had the second highest most points of his career. And Radulov and Ben will be a big question mark, because he had a really down year this year. But I'm going to take Dallas in 6 just to throw something different out there. But I still think deep down, I think Nashville will win this series.
Forsberg and Arvidsson and company are just too strong, in my opinion, especially with those big 4 on defense. And if Rinne falters, I mean, UC Saros can always jump in net, and he's a darn good goalie. So moving on, St. Louis and Winnipeg. Nashville is built to beat Winnipeg. But unfortunately, so is the St. Louis Blues. And I'm going to go St. Louis in 7 in this one, only because Winnipeg is just absolutely struggling down the stretch here. They've had injuries. They're starting to get some guys back. But, man, St. Louis, at the beginning of the year, I had them making the playoffs. Their top 3 lines are unreal, a lot of playoff experience. And with them being healthy and finally getting a goaltender that can stop a puck, I can see Winnipeg faltering and losing to the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, and I will actually have to agree with you. I will also take the Blues in 7 games. Winnipeg has been they've sort of been like around 500 sort of going into, I think, after the All-Star break or a little bit after that. They've only been like an 82 point pace since then. So they've had some injuries too with Dustin Byfuglien and Josh Morrissey. I think on that left side has been like they've missed him like greatly on that left hand side because you've had guys like Bulio, Kulikov, Sherratt, where those aren't guys that you want to be having in your top four on the back end. But
we know Wheeler and Scheifele will show up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried that Laine is not going to show up.
Yeah,
if Byfuglien shows up, they got guys like Pat Maroon that can deal with him. So,
and the one thing is that Winnipeg is big. Like they're like outside of like Matthew Perreault or whatever, there isn't like one small guy on that team. So they can run over you. And if they do get hot, and if Connor Hellebuck can steal a couple games, I could see Winnipeg also winning this series. But St. Louis, they've been like one of the hottest teams since the beginning of January, where they were dead last. And they were just a point away from tying Nashville for first place in the division, which is crazy. But yeah, Jordan Binnington.
Ryan O'Reilly can shut down Scheifele. You got guys like Tarasenko and Shen that can play physical. You've got Periaco and Pietrangelo and Bowmeister. They all can skate and all have size. So this is going to be a great series to watch.
I know, yeah. I think this is like that one series. Like when it's on, I will be watching no matter what, which other playoff series or games are going on during that time, just because I want to see how it's going to go. And I'm hoping Binnington can keep things going because like we know we had the Andrew Hammond run with Ottawa where he had that crazy record, but as soon as the playoffs started, then everything fell apart for him.
Yeah.
And then he had to end up going back to Craig Anderson in the playoffs during that year.
Well, let's go on to the East now. Tampa, Columbus. I know you love Bobrovsky, but oh man, as much as I want Columbus to win this series, I'm going to have to go Tampa in 6 because their depth is just too good. I think Columbus might steal a game or two because of Bobrovsky, but don't forget Vasilevsky's at the other end.
Yeah, so like Bobrovsky is also a big question mark with his playoff history. In 24 career playoff games, he has an .891 save percentage and a 3.49 goals against average, which is totally different from his regular season numbers. But I think the one big thing here will be the power play. I think both teams tied for first place in the penalty kill, but Tampa Bay had the best power play at 28.2%. Well, Columbus was at 15.4%. That was 28th, so fourth last in the league. With the way Tampa is going, I think they'll win in 5. I think Bobrovsky could steal them a game, and Victor Hedman should be back for Game 1.
If not, they still have Ryan McDonough, who's a great shutdown defenseman back there.
Man, and he had a great year. I think he had like 46 points and logging, I think even bigger minutes than Hedman this year. Which is a great thing to have another number one defenseman like that on the left hand side.
1A and 1B, just like San Jose.
Well, but yeah, I think Tampa Bay is going to be too much for Columbus, which sucks because they went out and made all those trades. Matt Duchene, I'll be really interested to see how he does because he hasn't exactly stepped up since getting traded to Columbus. I think Panarin and Atkinson will have a good series, I want to say, because Columbus did end up having 7 guys with over 20 goals this year. But Tampa Bay, man, is like Nikita Kucherov, 128 points this year.
Points, Steve Stamkos. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Like Kucherov, he set a record for most points by a Russian in his season, passing Alexander McGinley for most points by Russian-born defenseman, or just a Russian-born player. McGinley, like his mark was in 92-93. He had 76 goals and 127 points with the Buffalo Sabres.
He played with Pat LaFontaine, and it was a great duo. We have to move on, though. We have to move on. Boston, Toronto. Man, this one. Boston is, I'm sorry, they're going to win in 6, maybe 7. No Komarov, no Martin this year. Toronto's got 3 lines that are absolute punching bags. And guys like Brad Marchand are going to play 6'7" again with guys like Chara and all the toughness that Boston has. Boston in 6. As long as they get the goaltending from Tuukka Rask or even Halak, because Freddie Anderson's been playing terrible down the stretch. Toronto seems to be in disarray. Too many superstars, too many sweethearts, and I see Boston just absolutely pummeling them here.
Yeah. I will also agree with that. Like that Marchand, Pasternak, and Bergeron line, man, is just so good. And I really like their depth with like Krejci matches career high in points for a season with 73. And then you have DeBrusque, Johansson,
Charlie
uh,
Coyle.
yeah, and then that back end, like you got Torrey Krug running that power play, and then of course, yeah, McAvoy and Chara as that big number one pair. Like I know Toronto, they like I really like their forward group, but it's that defense and Freddie Anderson struggles over the past couple months. That really leans me towards Boston winning that series, and then that will get us set up for a Tampa Bay Boston rematch, and I can't wait to see that.
Hey, what's the over/under on Jake Gardner's plus minus in this series?
Oh man, well, as much as I don't want to harp on Jake Gardner or whatever, because I still think in the unrestricted free agents coming up this season, I will actually try for the
No, we don't
Gardner.
want him. We don't want him.
But but yeah, I'll set it at a -4 or whatever. It's like that. Because I don't think it will. I don't think it can be as bad as last year.
I'm
But
gonna say -7, but
no.
let's jump to the last two playoff series. Starting with, let's go Carolina, Washington. For me, Washington has an unbelievable power play. Defending Stanley Cup champions, I don't think there's any way Carolina wins this. I'm gonna say Washington in 6.
Yeah, I think we're thinking alike here. I will also go Washington in 6. I think Carolina, because you got that storm surge, especially in front of that home crowd. It will actually be interesting to see the atmosphere in Carolina this playoffs, this with how they've done this year. But yeah, the interesting thing will be how they will handle Mrazek and McElhinney and how they use them. If they'll
50
split
shots a game's how they handle them.
I know, yeah, like sheesh. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle them because they split during the regular season. I think Mrazek will be the guy they go with to start, but I think they're pretty confident in both goalies, and they could both use them in this series. But yeah, Alexander Ovechkin, he won his 8th Rocket Richard Trophy, finishing the season with 51 goals, which is just nuts. I mean, that's also an NHL record. He passed Bobby Hull for most Rocket Richards for leading the league in goals. And then they also had 720 goals, 27 players with 20 plus goals this year as well. And then you have John Carlson, who had over 70 points on that back end.
Oh man, that power play is just so deadly though, with 2 left-handed playmakers and 3 right-handed shooters.
The one thing I will be intrigued with to see is how far Washington will go, because like with Michael Kempney being done for the season, that's a huge loss for their top 4. But I think they're going to try to use Nick Jensen, who they picked up at the trade deadline, in their top 4. But the thing is, they'll have like 3 righties in their top 4. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays
out. The last playoff series, the Islanders home at Nassau County Coliseum against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm going Islanders in 7 here. Barry Trotz is an absolute genius when he comes to coaching, line matchups and everything. And with Greiss and Leonard and net and the great, they won the William Jennings Trophy this year. I can see, that 4th line being just an absolute handful for Pittsburgh with Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas, who had over 20 goals this year, and the hit machine, Cal Clutterbuck. The Islanders, it's going to be a great series. I mean, they got to find a way to shut down Sidney Crosby, of course. Pittsburgh's got a lot of depth too, but I just don't see Matt Murray playing better than Leonard or Greiss.
Yeah, so this will be intriguing. So just before I get into my pick, like with the Islanders, this is their first time having home ice advantage in a playoff series since 1988, I believe. That's what I saw. Kelly Rudy was their starting goalie in net. And they're 103 points, which they finished. That is the most since 1983-84, where they had 104 points. So it's just crazy. And then touching on Leonard and Greiss, the Islanders goalie coach Mitch Korn. This is his 3rd organization he's been with, where he's led the team to a William Jennings Trophy with Nashville, Washington, and now the New York Islanders, which is just insane. And like Leonard, I think he had the 2nd best save percentage, right behind Ben Bishop with a 930, and Greiss had like a 927 save percentage. But I think I'll have to disagree, and I'll have to go with Pittsburgh. I'll take them in 6 games just because in the end, you got to put the puck in the net. And I think the Islanders, they'll do well defensively, but they only had 3 guys with over 20 goals this year. They had Anders Lee lead the team with 28 goals. And then he had Brock Nelson with 25. And then Casey Cizikas was the 3rd leading goal scorer with 20 goals. So if you're fourth line,
they don't score a lot, but you got to score on them to win. So
yeah, so it's just like, and I think like guys like Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, like all these guys, they've been in these situations year in, year out. And they know how to win like these close games. They won't get as frustrated or anything as Crosby did earlier in his career. They just know how to win these games. And Matt Murray's playoff numbers, the guy's won 2 Stanley Cups already. And last year, I think he struggled a little bit in the second round against Washington, but his numbers have been crazy good. And with a healthy Chris Letang and Justin Schultz, the best thing is that everybody's going to be healthy for Pittsburgh, it looks like, for the start of the playoffs, which is great because they've had guys like Hornquist and Schultz who missed like tons of time this year. But yeah.
Unfortunately for the Islanders, they're going to be missing Andrew Ladd, which, oh, man, he would be a nice addition for this playoff series because he knows how to play physical and obviously shut down the other team. So.
Man, if Matthew Barzal, I think that'll be a big thing for the Islanders. They need Barzal.
And Josh Bailey.
Mm-hmm. That and even Jordan Eberle. I think he had a disappointing regular season. I think stat-wise, I think that this is a guy that I always thought would be built for the playoffs, just because like all the World Junior success and everything. The guy comes up at clutch moments. But I think the one thing is the Islanders' stingy defensive play. They let in less than 200 goals this year, which is crazy good in this NHL standards. But yeah, I think it'll either go 6 or 7 games, but I think Pittsburgh comes out on top here.
If they get the goaltending and the defense that they've had all season, I think it's going to be a lot like the Vegas Los Angeles first round of last year, where a lot of games go into overtime, low scoring, 0-0, 1-1, 2-2. And anything can happen, as we know, in overtime. So it'll be crazy to see. And we'll see how bad they miss Tavares. But to me, is one of those playoff series I'm not sure if I'm intrigued enough to watch, but as the series goes on, it might be one worth watching. I think I'm with you. The St. Louis-Winnipeg series, very high on my chart, along with the Toronto-Boston series.
Oh, and the other guy I want to see for Pittsburgh, Jake Gensel. The guy's been like an absolute beast in the playoffs the past couple of years. Like I think he was like
and the Chris Kontos of the NHL playoffs.
Man, yeah, because he had 40 goals this year, and then like the guy was like putting up like a goal a game like last year in the playoffs, and the year before he was an absolute beast. So I think this is another guy that could just absolutely rip it up when the postseason starts.
Again, though, I can't bet against Barry Trotz. I'd love to see him go up against his old team in the second round. So there you have it, folks. Leave us your playoff predictions below. Comment below. Remember to like and subscribe, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on our Facebook page, B&B Hockey Talk. Again, I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host Matt Barzal, of course, Matt Balzer. And we thank you for tuning us in. We're going to be back on Friday for our special edition, our final special edition of the Vancouver Canucks year in review that we're going to do. So tune in then. We thank you for joining us now. And again, also leave us comments below about the NHL Draft Lottery. Do you think it's fair? Do you think they need to change it? Let us know. We'd love to talk about it. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you guys all on Friday.